Welcome to live. I have Deborah Laurel here with me and excited we can spend this time together. Welcome here, Deborah.
Thank you, Caleb.
Deborah is an author for entrepreneurs, and her LinkedIn profile says accidental trainer developed the skills to design and deliver effective skill building training programs and workshops to bolster their credibility and increase their revenue streams. That sounds awesome. Who is this Deborah behind this LinkedIn profile? Let's just hear a little bit more, Deborah. Welcome here again, and let's just tell us a little bit more about what you do.
I'm a trainer, so I help with soft skills, with management skills, and with training skills. So all of my workshops, whether they're classroom or virtual, are focused on building skills that people can use immediately in the class and afterwards.
Awesome. So training. Tell us a little bit more about this training. What kind of people would be needing this kind of training?
Well, I've focused on three areas. One is management development. There are what I call accidental managers, managers who are promoted and because they're high performers, but their skills don't transfer into being a manager. And they sink or swim, and a good 70% of them fail in the first 2 years because they haven't been trained as managers and they don't have those skills. So I help them learning how to delegate, how to motivate, how to build a team, how to manage conflict, how to manage performance, things like that. The other are what I call accidental trainers. They come up to a high performer, let's say it's you, Caleb, and they say, Caleb, you've been doing this for a while now, so we want you to start training people tomorrow. And then suddenly you're a trainer, but you don't know how to train. You're probably going to rely on lecture because that's what you know.
Yeah.
And if you're a safety trainer in a management manufacturing company, that could be devastating because if people are turned off, tuned out, then we have all the accidents that happen, not just because of safety trainers. I don't mean to impugn safety trainers as a general rule. I'm just giving that as an example.
Yes. Yeah. So accidental trainers. Yeah. Okay. So that was two, right? What's the third?
Employees. Soft skills. You know, how do you interview for a job? How do you communicate with that disruptive coworker? How do you keep your stress down in this incredibly volatile time? How do you manage change? Things like that.
Wow, like from the top to the bottom here with your skills. Like that's every business's dream, is being able to have that kind of a workflow happening here, that kind of unity happening. So it's very interesting to me that you work with the trainers that are being leaders and then down to the employees. So yeah, I would like to know a little bit more how that works. How do you go about doing that? Do you work with inside of a company and kind of go through those that are in the trainers and then down to the employees? Like, is that kind of how your package works? Tell me a little bit more about how that works as you go and use your business.
In general, at least in the past, the training office has brought me in, or the CEO has brought me in, and it's to do something very specific. It's generally not a full package with all three of those focus areas. Very often it's management development or train the trainer. And occasionally it's for the employees. You know, how to staff a meeting, for example, when you're not leading the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. What size of a group do you like? Will you work with? Will you work one-on-one? Let's go with the employee side. Do you work one-on-one with employees, or do you work more as a group level?
I'm not a coach, so I don't work one-on-one.
Okay.
I work with Generally, there will be 25 to 30 participants in a workshop.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So, all right. So then how long of a workshop is it for? Let's keep with employees right now. How long of a workshop do you put on, or do you have attend?
Well, if it's stress management, it's a half day.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's virtual or it's in a classroom. If it's team building, it's a full day.
Mm,
So 8:30 to 4, for example, with an hour for lunch. That would be with a classroom. Virtual training is somewhat different. You can't do it that length of time because people will just die on you.
they can watch a movie all day, but they can't sit and watch and have you part of a training all day, right?
Right. Well, all of my training is very interactive. It's hard to fall asleep in my training because there's at least in the classroom, we're doing games, gallery walks, case studies. There's so many different things that we're doing that will keep people engaged and involved. Virtually, there are bells and whistles that you can use, and they work pretty well. I'm not a lecturer. I don't like lecture, and I don't know a lot of people who love it.
Yeah. Just even hearing the word lecture makes my skin crawl. So,
I even arrange classrooms so that people are in pods. I don't put them in rows because we
mm,
get a lot of negative feedback. People start thinking they're in high school or school, and that may not have been a very pleasant experience, and then they shut up.
I gotcha. Well, that sounds like a classroom I'd like to sit in on then. I wish my school would have been that way.
Well, me too. I have trained teachers, and there are some who are so good at what they do.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that they're not valued the way they need to be.
Hmm. So, with this kind of an interesting impact, valuable impact, you do interesting work, but with this kind of valuable impact that you do, how did you get into this? Like, how did this end up becoming something that you're currently doing? Tell us a little bit about how that was.
I have a unique origin story. I started the first feminist theater in the Midwest with another woman, and we were performing one of our plays, Empty Space Blues, that dealt with how the feminist movement affected different women.
Okay.
And after the play, we would open it up for conversation with the audience. And one time there were two professors in the audience who came up to me afterwards and said, "We'd like you to teach assertiveness." I said, "Great, what's that?" And they said, "That's what you're doing. Read this book." That's how I got into training.
Wow. So so you got into training by reading this book, okay, and then where did that take you from there? Like, yeah, I've read many books on how to make money, and I still feel like I haven't made it yet.
I learned how to research it and make it interactive and interesting.
Hmm.
And from that, I started teaching at the technical college, always as a ad hoc
Hmm.
person, because I've had my business. I've been doing this since 1973. I started when I was 2,
Hmm.
and I've had my business since 1986. So I taught in the supervisory management technician program, and they would say, "Okay, we need training in active listening. Do you do that?" And I would say, "You bet." And then I'd go research it and create the training. And I have over 72 different training programs that I've developed. And that's on the short side. There are many more than that. So if I have not done the training in something, I design the training. For example, I designed the highest rated training for the US Department of Energy on compressed air, not the sexiest topic,
Hmm.
but it won an award because people were actually saving almost $8,000 on their compressed air costs in the industry.
Hmm. Wow. So it sounds like you're an entrepreneur. Someone has a problem, they want a solution, and you figured out a way to package it up, deliver it to where they get value out of it. I love it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So out of all of your training that you do, what do you feel like is like the icing on the cake? What to you is feel like is your sweet spot?
I love doing train the trainer, and I've done a lot of international work.
Mhm.
And um, the first training I did internationally was in Croatia, where you had to be careful walking because of the landmines
Whoa.
there. And because of the war, they had lost their infrastructure. And George Soros, with his Open Society Institute, decided to create a um, small business development centers in 3 areas: Osijek, Zagreb, and Dubrovnik.
Mhm.
And I was in Osijek, and I was teaching. I come in with kush balls and candy and music and kites on the walls, and they were just used to having a lecture, not interacting with the professor at all.
Mhm.
I begin by throwing kush balls and asking people to introduce themselves and showing cartoons. And the whole idea was to help them learn how to teach adults how to be entrepreneurs, because that was not a cultural value.
Oh, okay.
And uh, at the beginning, people were very hesitant to interact get involved. But by the fifth day, when they actually had to put what they had learned into practice and give a 10-minute learning activity to teach how to be an entrepreneur and have that be interactive, I cried. They were so good. They had just absorbed it all. A funny story around that: I traveled with 85 pounds of candy when I went there. And we actually went through 3 armed checkpoints because I had to be picked up in Hungary because the Osijek airport had been bombed. And it didn't occur to me until afterwards that we could have all been arrested because I was black. They could call me a black marketeer. And the young man, Boris, who picked me up in Hungary, I told him, "This is heavy. This is very heavy." He said, "No problem, no problem." At the end of the 3 weeks that I was in Croatia and he was taking me back to Hungary, he said, "I can tell you now, it almost killed me picking that up."
Like like he had all the 80 pounds in one bag?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Amazing. I that sounds very unique. I would love to see your training in action. That sounds to me like it's interactive, right? Yeah. What kind of response do you get when you're doing your training? What do people say?
In general, people love it
Yeah.
because I do those bells and whistles to make people feel comfortable, and they're my guests.
Mhm.
But they are also learning very specific things.
Mhm.
So if they're in a train the trainer program, as they were in Croatia, they leave with detailed lesson plans. They leave with learning activities that they have designed that they can use immediately. They
Mhm.
used to have facilitator guides that remind them how to conduct that particular training.
Mhm.
They've also been given presentation skills training, and they have videotapes of themselves presenting as well as facilitating. So they also leave with templates that remind them how to create lesson plans, create learning activities, and
Mm.
facilitate them. So they leave with a huge package. And I have had people tell me many, many years afterwards that they still refer to it.
So you're carrying, I'm going to go use that 80-pound candy for as a focal point here. That's a lot of effort goes into that candy. You buy it and you got to haul it over there. And like you said, you could be at risk because it's enough that people are going to say you're not going under the black market or whatever it might be. However, they might want to label you as, uh, and then you distribute that candy. There's a lot of effort goes into that bell and whistle. So why is that important to you in your training? Why is that particular bell and whistle, and then plus the others? Why do you put energy into that?
I want people to be comfortable. And I am an accelerated learning trainer, which means that you want whole body learning. Our memory is lodged emotionally. And so you want to engage as many senses as possible. So I have an agenda map on the wall that identifies and colorfully what we're going to cover. I have the kites to create an environment that is welcoming. I have the candy because I come from a Talmudic tradition. When a child goes to study the Torah, which is a religious book, they have him or her put their finger on the page of the Torah and then dip it in honey to learn that learning is sweet. So that's why I say they're my guests. I have kush balls and wands and a variety of other tactile things on the tables because some people learn kinesthetically and they need to be doing something with their hands. So everything is intended to create an environment where people will relax. I play music,
Mm-hmm.
and that they will, if they're relaxed, they'll be more creative, they're more open. Because it's a very stressful thing to go into a training room. You don't know how you're going to be treated. Will you be treated with respect? Are you going to be bored to tears?
Yeah.
And then the activities that I use are intended to evoke and elicit the knowledge people already have. So I want to acknowledge it and respect it,
Mm-hmm.
and build on what they already know.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So when you were in school years ago, in grade school, high school, whatever, did you get that kind of training from the school curriculum?
Yeah.
So what got you inspired that I'm really, really, really this really intrigues me because I love the part how not everybody learns the same, right? And so many different ways people learn, and they might look like they're, I don't like to use this word, simple because they can't understand something, but no, it's how it's taught, right? It's how it's taught, and you haven't been able to reach them with that teaching. So how can you, if you weren't taught this in school and you didn't have this kind of experience, what inspired you that this is the way to go? This is how you teach people.
That is such a good question. I have had variety of people in my life who have introduced different things, and I just pulled them together and continually learn and pull new activities and things together. One person taught me about the agenda map. Another person taught me about the kush balls.
Hmm.
So it built like that. There was not one situation where I didn't have a train the trainer course until I had been training for a number of years. I can't get out of my sunlight. I'm sorry.
No, it's all is good. So if I can take what you just said here and understand it a bit more, I've learned something new here. It sounds to me like, and I want to say this and let me know if I'm off, but it sounds to me like the way to remember something with your memory is you need to touch that emotion and you need to take the information and make it tangible. Is that right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
so when that, what does that say about us as humans that we look at things as with an object perspective? Would you say?
I'm not sure what you mean by object perspective.
Like I think of in terms of cheeriness happiness as possibly like the sunshine, like that might be what comes to my mind, is because that's the object that can relate that to. Right. I think of maybe sad and dark times as like a storm, maybe cloudy and rain. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to know how, because you talked about the emotional side, right? So for me to remember it hits my emotions, it makes me feel something. Is it interpreted through my brain as an object?
It's interpreted as an experience, and there's a story around that experience.
There you go. Okay. That's become that makes a lot of sense. The experience, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So like my memory uh goes to places like I'll have a smell I'll smell something. I haven't smelled it for years. And all of a sudden when I smell it, I right remember exactly where that smell was years ago. Right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that's exactly true. That's how it works.
So that's amazing. So when you can do this for people, right? They're coming away from your session, like you said, it's you said a half a day, right? With employees, it could be,
It could be half a day or a full day.
or a full day.
Mhm.
They're learning more from you in this case than they would have probably for the whole year going to high school.
I've had people say that. I have had people say that because my philosophy is if you don't build people's confidence in their own competence, they're not going to use what they've learned. And
Mhm,
they're not going to use what they've learned until they've practiced it. So you have to do what's necessary in the classroom,
mhm.
and classroom, whether it's virtual or real classroom. Because if you don't do it there, you're not going to feel comfortable trying it outside the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. So this what you do is a business that you started. Is that what I heard you say before? You started
Mhm.
this business?
Yes,
So, okay, for the entrepreneur out there who's got a business idea, who wants to make change, who wants to help somebody, who has this idea, and they just got to get out there and put it to practice. How do you let's talk about that part right there. When you were trying to like turn this into a business, right? You had the idea, you knew you could help people, you were able to get some results. How did that work to where you took this from out to where you started making actually income with it?
I actually started when I was working with state government in personnel.
Hmm.
There was a request for proposal out to do training. And since I had been doing training on my vacation days, I proposed and was accepted. And then the person who was running that said, "Well, you need a name. You need to be a business."
Hmm.
So I said, "Well, my last name's Laurel." He said, "Well, make yourself Laurel and Associates Limited." And I said, "I don't have any associates." He said, "Yes, but if you have, it says associates, people will feel more comfortable that you're going to be there when you need to be." And then the Small Business Development Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison had classes in what to think about and how to go about creating a business. And then there's I think it's RSVP, it's retired senior volunteers
Hmm.
who were also helpful. And then the small business development, in addition to classes, provided uh, free counseling. So I took advantage of all of those and then ended up teaching
Hmm.
for the Small Business Development Center.
Hmm. So what do you feel like was your break, your break that really got you going? It was uh that you can kind of go into the workings of something but never really get it to take off. What do you feel like was the break that just like, now this is your path, this is now what you're meant to do, and you got a career?
I was involved in creating training programs for a state agency where I was employed.
Mhm.
And there was an external consultant who came and said, I need X created.
Mhm.
And I created that. And he said, okay, he would hire me to do that for them.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, I have a bunch of contracts with different state agencies. They know me. I've done training as part of being a state employee, and I have this. So it's time to cut loose and leave state government.
Mhm.
And my timing was terrible because right after that I got pregnant and, and didn't have insurance.
Mm.
I mean, when you go into business, it's what my experience has been is it's feast or famine.
Mm.
There are times where you have so much work, you're not sleeping. And then there's other times where you're worried to death because you don't have any income coming in.
Yep.
And it takes a very long time to recognize that that's the way it works.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that when you've had a lull, things will pick up. Now, for me, it was word of mouth. When I was doing training for the Small Business Development Center, they sent my face and my information out all over the county.
Mm.
That helps
Mhm.
when you have somebody else marketing you. So I was very lucky in that regard. And then I was lucky to end up doing training, that assertiveness training, which led to my being an ad hoc instructor for the Small Business Development Center, as well as for the Management Institute at the UW School of Business
Mhm.
for 30 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. I like that story. I really do. And I like the part how you say that you had help. Somebody helped you with marketing. They put your name out there. I think I think the people when I talk to more people about this journey, I realized that it's not an alone journey. There was help along the way. There was people who were able to point you in the right direction. And you're hungry at that stage. You're hungry like, how can I make this better? And it just takes somebody who might have an inroad into your ideal customers, like and they can market to them, and put your name there. That's huge. That's huge. It goes from screaming inside of a glass room where nobody can hear you trying to get your message out there to now it just delivered right in the hands of the people you need to get delivered to. So I think that was a big help for you in that stage.
And I think that's probably true for anyone in business because there's so many things that we don't know how to do ourselves.
Yep.
We get into business because there's something we care passionately about, and we do that very well.
Yep.
Yeah, but I didn't know how to market myself. I mean,
Yep.
if I were to go back, I would have hired a marketing person right off the bat.
For sure.
Well, these days, it's harder. It's much harder. There's a lot of noise out there.
Mm.
It's hard to get to your target audience, and it's hard to have them pay attention to you.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I love it. I think that's you got an amazing story. Your name of your business is Laurel and Associates Ltd. What's the what's the best way for people to reach you? How can they reach you, Deborah?
The best way would be through LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I'm Deborah Spring Laurel, master trainer.
Hmm.
That would be the easiest way.
So connect with Deborah, and definitely, yeah, LinkedIn is a great place. So yeah, love that. Well, good. Well, thanks again for sharing your story, and you got an amazing business.
Oh, thank you very much. I've loved this conversation, Caleb. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.